I kind of accidentally got off my GLP-1 medication. It's been a month since my last shot and I have a lot to tell you. I am always hungry. That is not a question and I'm not going to beat around the bush about that. Hi everyone, my name is Mima. I used to be obese. I lost all of the weight through a combination of GLP-1 medication, a whole foods diet, and weightlifting, and now I train as an endurance cyclist. So guess what, guys? I kind of accidentally got off my GLP-1 medication. It's been a month since my last shot, and I have a lot to tell you. It's been quite an interesting ride these last 4 weeks. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, all of the details that I'm sure you guys are raring to hear, I just want to give like a brief overview of my entire GLP-1 journey. I do have a full video. It's over 40 minutes long. So if you want to know more about what it's been like for me to be on GLP-1 since September of 2024, then please go check out that video. But just to kind of put a little bit of context into this particular video, I would just like to share sort of like a few of the finer points of my entire journey. So again, I started in September of 2024, like around mid-September last year. And that was primarily to resolve my prediabetes, my high cholesterol, and also to prepare for a healthy, low-risk pregnancy. That was really the number one thing that made me go into the doctor in the first place, to kind of check to see how my body was pregnancy-wise, or like how ready it was for pregnancy, like what kind of risks I was facing, and if I had any issues that I had to resolve first. And of course, the number one issue was the fact that I was class 1 obese. I was 185 pounds for someone who is 5'3". That is quite the weight, and I was already starting to feel it at that time. At that point, I had 2 years of chronic back pain, which I thought were only due to my intense travel schedule for work, but actually no, it was because I was class 1 obese. So after sort of like my appointments with various doctors, including my PCP and my OBGYN, I went into a weight management program, sort of like with the same hospital system that my other doctors are in. And that's when kind of this whole thing really started, and I was prescribed GLP-1 medication. For the first 6 months of being on the medication, the number one priority with me, my obesity doctor, and my dietitian was actually focusing on my nutrition, doing a lot of nutrition education, as well as just breaking down the pieces and all of the emotional components I have with different kinds of foods, and also improving my skills in the kitchen as well. And also it was that first 6 months where I actually lost the majority of the weight. I've lost more or less 65 pounds, and 50 of those pounds I lost during the first 6 months. After that, in March 2025, that was when I seriously started to incorporate more movement and activity into my program, and I started with strength training / weightlifting. Because I also have insulin resistance, one of the things that you can do to help manage insulin resistance is to build muscle. So that's why I really wanted to go into strength training with that in mind, with not just like weight loss or body recomposition and sort of like the aesthetics of it, but also because muscle mass helps with insulin resistance tremendously, because muscle is such a big glucose sink. So from March 2025 until about August 2025, that was sort of my only main source of movement and activity. And I did that religiously, like 5 days out of the week. I was strength training, learning the basics, building my form, improving my form, all of that good stuff. And then in August of 2025, I added a cardiovascular exercise to my routine, and that was endurance cycling. This was primarily because I still had high cholesterol at that time, and it was found out that it was because of genetic high cholesterol, so passed down from my family onto me, and I just wanted to be able to improve my cardiovascular health. So I chose something crazy, which was endurance cycling, and I started training in August 2025, and I bought my first bike in September of 2025, and I've been biking outdoors ever since. And now that we're in the winter, I've been really braving the cold weather here in the Northeast because I just want to keep riding. Now, because I started this journey with the express intent of being healthy and fit and active for pregnancy, me getting off or weaning off of the medication for pregnancy has always been on the horizon for me. So my team at the weight management program has always known that this was a part of my program, and we have like incorporated this into my program, which is why we really focused on nutrition and strength training, changing habits, building routines, all of them sustainable, so that I could reconfigure my life to be more active and less dependent on ultra processed food, which would help me during my pregnancy while I'm off the medication. So me getting off the medication is not really something very, very sudden, in a sense that I had never planned for it. It was always in the plan. It's just that timeline wise, we're kind of early for that. But again, I did mention in my GLP-1 journey video that I am really confident about the habits and sort of this new life that I've built, and not really afraid of weight regain or going back to how my old life looked like, because of how much work I've put into building and reconfiguring my life and creating all of these new habits that really, really help me on my day-to-day life now. Habits that include a much improved sleep hygiene. I basically sleep a minimum of 7 hours every night. On weekdays, I'm like in bed by 9 and I'm awake at 5 and my day starts then. I also, like I said, have very, very high activity levels. Now that I have endurance cycling into my training plan, I don't strength train 5 days a week anymore, but I do 3 times a week strength training, 3 times a week endurance cycling, and then 1 day a week I do Pilates for recovery and flexibility and mobility, and adding the fact that I average about 12,000 steps a day. So my activity levels are very high, and the only times that I miss a day of activity is when I am traveling, or if it's a transit day and the schedules for whether it's the plane or the train just don't align with me being able to incorporate my usual activities. I also have an 80-20 whole foods diet now. The first 6 months of my program, where I really took the time with the dietitian to improve my nutrition, both just not on the skills level, the kitchen part, but also the education part, has really been a huge help and a huge part of why I am able to maintain an 80-20 whole foods diet, and it just makes me feel so much better. As someone who is a very, very active person, this kind of diet is what fuels my everyday. And I have noticed the times, like the very few times that I have had fast food, that it's just not the kind of food that I would want to have in my body on a day-to-day basis, because of where my activity goals and fitness goals are. And all of those habits, all of those lifestyle changes that I've made, they're all packaged up into sort of like the routines, like my everyday routines, what my day-to-day looks like, and they're really glued together by discipline, because I am really only able to maintain all of these new habits, these new routines, because also of the discipline that I've built alongside this new life and lifestyle that, I've reconfigured my life into. With all that said, then, what happened? Why did I accidentally get off my GLP-1 medication? So on a normal basis, like my usual shot schedule is actually every Saturday evening. And that's, because Saturdays are my long ride days. I typically ride a minimum of 3 hours on my bike every Saturday around the trails here near where I live. And I prefer to have a strong appetite on Saturdays, because it's very important to be able to fuel your body right, to be able to ride those long hours on the saddle. On October 25, that evening, right before going to bed, I took my dose and then I went on with my week. And then the next week was November 1 and I forgot to take my shot. And I only realized it a few days later when I checked my shot logging app that I actually did not take my dose for that week. And at this point, my doctor and I already had a plan for weaning off from me because we are getting closer to me and my husband starting to try for pregnancy. And I had a few options in sort of my bag that my doctor was basically like, choose whichever you feel is best for you. None of them are the wrong answers. They're fine. Because with one, I am on such a low dose of the medication. I've been on 5 milligrams since October of 2024 that one, I could basically just stop taking it cold turkey, or I could do like 2.5 for a month, go down to 2.5 for a month and then stop completely. But because I missed that shot, I kind of was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna get off it. Like, I'm just not gonna take my shot again next week or even go on 2.5 next week. Again, I said in my GLP-1 journey video that I am not at all worried about weight regain. I am really, really confident in this new lifestyle change, like this new life that I reconfigured for myself, that, I in a way just kind of wanted to put that to the test. So, while stopping GLP-1s has always been a part of my plan, this unexpected part is kind of like a science experiment for me, and I am bringing you along with every step of that science experiment. So then let's drill down to the nuts and bolts of it. How has it been like for me being off the medication for more than 4 weeks now? And at this point, there is very, very little Zepbound that's left in my system. So I felt it was actually a great time to start talking about this rather than talk about it like a week and a half, 2 weeks after I had actually missed that dose on November 1. So let's talk about hunger and food noise, which I know people are very, very curious, and some of them can be anxious to just know what other people's experiences are like being off the medication and how the hunger and food noise levels have been. I do want to preface this by saying that I generally have not had any problems with food noise even prior to taking the medication. We realized during my weight management program, because there's also a psychiatrist on the team for me, and that was a huge part as well of sort of like the nutrition education part of my journey, was that the biggest issue that was exacerbating my insulin resistance and really was a big contributor to me packing on the pounds was poor anxiety and stress management. So I was using food to basically manage my stress and manage my anxiety. That's not the case anymore because, like I mentioned, my lifestyle is completely different now, and I have so much better anxiety and stress management tools and processes and systems. That includes also being on a whole foods diet, being incredibly active. So generally, like, me managing my stress and my anxiety is not a huge problem anymore, and that's not a factor in my food intake anymore. But because of that, being off the GLP-1 medication, I don't have any food noise, and I don't foresee that to be an issue the longer that I am off the medication. Now, hunger. Hunger is a different story. I will be very honest and say, since starting my endurance cycling journey, I am always hungry. That is not surprising if you are an endurance athlete or starting an endurance sport journey, because your body needs fuel. If you want to keep going for the long rides, long runs, your body needs to eat. Your body needs energy. So when my hunger levels went up after I started my endurance cycling journey, my obesity doctor and I both agreed that I did not need to titrate up to a higher dose because, like I said, fuel is very important for sports like these, and it was important for me to be able to fuel my body for both training and recovery, and fuel my body the right way and enough for training and recovery. Nutrition is an incredibly critical part of my life right now, so it's very, very important that I eat balanced, nutritious, and voluminous foods. I hope I'm saying that right, voluminous. I think that's the right term. Voluminous foods on and off the bike. Off the medication, I am definitely still hungry. That is not a question, and I'm not going to beat around the bush about that. But because of the habits and the routines that I've built and the nutrition education that I invested in and worked hard on with my dietitian the first 6 months of my GLP-1 journey, my hunger signals, they don't worry me or they don't cause great anxiety in me, to be completely honest. Because I know exactly what to eat, what kinds of foods satiates me, but also what kinds of foods are complementary to the training and activity levels that I do. And because of that, my performance in the gym and on the bike has not been impacted at all. And neither is like my day-to-day life. Like, hunger is a part of it, but I know exactly when to eat, what to eat, and what kinds of food I know will make me feel good and also make me happy, because I also love food. I love to cook. Cooking is a huge love language for me. It's a big part of how I show my love for my husband and my family. So this whole experience has not affected that at all, and hasn't also changed the kinds of foods and dishes and meals that I am making for my family. We are still a primarily whole foods household here, and it's given me such huge respect for amazing, nutritious, tasty food. And now, the million-dollar question. Mima, have you gained weight since being off the medication for 4 weeks? Before I answer that question, I want to set a context for a few things because my experience is quite different than other people's. One, ever since I started lifting weights, I've actually been weighing every day. It's not really about the number on the scale for me, but the data that number gives me in sort of like the longer term, like all of that data put together. That's what's important for me. When I started strength training, I was really adamant in taking it seriously. So I got a DEXA scan, and that was really to know what my body fat percentage was so that I could adjust my nutrition accordingly, right? Because sometimes your macros could change based on your body fat percentage. So it was really important for me to know that piece of information so that I was as accurately eating the macros that I needed as I could be. Now, I like looking and analyzing at trends. It's a part of what I do at work. And for me, knowledge is power. The more that I know what's going on in my body, the more that I can be nimble and flexible enough to be able to adjust both nutrition-wise and activity level-wise. So that to me is more important now, more than ever, now that I am off Zepbound. With that said, I want you to take a look at this photo. I am looking at it on my computer, so you will see me look down and just look at that photo, the same photo that you're looking at right now. Now, this is my weight input from about the last time I took Zep on October 25 and all of the days like after that, basically. The scale here, and you'll see that on the right side of the photo from like 120 down to 112, that is the pounds, basically like 112 pounds to 120 pounds. For the last 4 weeks, I have basically remained at 116, and that's why you can see the average right there. That is slightly lower than where I want to be. I kind of want to be like between 117 and 120. So last week I made adjustments to my nutrition plan because I want to gain muscle. I don't want to lose it. So we'll see how that goes in the next 4 weeks. But over the last 4 weeks, I've maintained my nutrition, my activity levels, and my habits. And I haven't really gained any weight. So that weight part this last 4.5 weeks is not something that I see is going to be an issue, and I am honestly really not worried about it moving forward, being off the medication. So that's been what my 4.5 weeks off the medication has been like so far. I will continue to record and share this journey with you all who are interested. I know people are curious. I know some people are anxious, especially if they are losing access to the medication in the new year. So I will continue to be an open book about this and, you know, provide regular updates here on YouTube and also probably on my Instagram, which I'm going to share the handle here below. If you are interested in following along on this journey, please do subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the videos in the continuation of this journey. I am also more than happy to chat with you guys if you have any questions, if you have any anxieties or stresses or worries about getting off the medication or just the GLP-1 journey in general. Please do leave a comment of your question or your thoughts down below. Or again, you can go to my Instagram and send me a DM. I'm happy to answer and chat with you about all of the questions that you might have. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with me today, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, happy riding.